Over the last 3 years, we've seen mass delays, major cancellations, and tons of stories about lost luggage, and really a general worsening of the travel experience. It's often said travel insurance will protect you against all of those things. But is that really true? Is that really the case? That's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Adelia Aborishade, although most people on the internet know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. I'm a financial educator, expat coach, and solo travel expert, and my mission is to help Black women develop their financial confidence so that they can travel, move abroad, or do whatever their heart desires. So if that sounds good to you, you should subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell so that the next time I upload a video like this one or go live, you'll be the first to know. First, we need to start off making sure we understand the terminology here. There is a difference between travel insurance, that is sometimes called traveler's insurance, and travel health insurance, or international health insurance. Those are not the same thing. So let's break down what we're here to talk about today, which is traveler's insurance. This kind of insurance coverage is meant to protect you against risk and financial losses that could occur while you're traveling. That includes things like trip cancellation, trip interruption, lost or delayed luggage, accidental death, and some medical expenses. Now, if what you'd really like to know more about is travel health insurance, we can do a separate video on that. Let me know in the comments if that's something you would like. But today we're talking specifically about the ins and outs when it comes to travel insurance. So we've all been there. You're purchasing your ticket from the airline. You sign up for a new credit card that has all of these new benefits associated with it. There's the question of, well, who should I be buying my travel insurance from? Because lots of businesses sell it, but I don't know that you should be buying it from them. So let's start with the airline. My personal opinion is that you should not buy travel insurance from the airline. Think about it. In a situation where something might happen to disrupt, delay your flight, is it in the airline's best interest to pay out your claim via a travel insurance policy? Or is it in their best interest to make what is covered so narrow that the travel insurance is virtually useless to you and a moneymaker for them? Personally, my thinking leans toward the second. So I would not recommend buying insurance from the business that I need insurance to protect me from, okay? Credit cards. Many credit cards, especially those marketed toward travelers, include a variety of different travel coverages. And often there's nothing additional that you have to pay to be covered by these policies. But it is important to make sure that you read the credit card agreement and you understand the stipulations from the card issuer about how to activate the coverage and what are the requirements necessary in order for you to be fully covered and be able to be reimbursed. So for example, if you've got a visa that includes travel insurance, one of the stipulations might be that all purchases for the trip have to be purchased with that card. Okay, so when it comes to credit cards, I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm going to say you need to really make sure you understand the coverage they are providing and how comprehensive it is or isn't. Then there are third-party sites like Expedia, Travelocity, those sites where you can, we use them oftentimes because they're very convenient. You can book your flight, your hotel, activities there, and they often offer travel insurance or insurance for the trip. I would caution you to be very careful here. Because again, it's sort of like buying insurance from the airline. I don't have any personal experience purchasing third-party travel insurance, but I have used a third party to book a rental car and bought their insurance, arrive at the rental car agency only to be told, we don't honor that insurance. So I would, that makes me personally very leery of getting insurance from a third party like an Expedia. Where does that leave us? Who should you be getting travel insurance from? There are insurance companies. There are insurance companies that specialize in travel insurance. There are more widely known insurance companies that cover a variety of things, including cars, home, and travel. So I think you get the most options if you buy your travel insurance from an insurance company. Now, let's talk about what that policy should cover, because one thing you definitely need to know is that all travel insurance policies are not created equal. You have to be very, very careful when you're doing comparison shopping, that you are truly comparing apples to apples and not pineapples to zucchinis. Things I think you should look for when shopping for travel insurance. Is there trip cancellation coverage? In the case that you need to cancel your trip, what will they reimburse you for? Is there trip delay coverage? We've seen so many delays of all kinds, weather related, airline related, all sorts of things over the last few years. You definitely want to make sure that your policy includes travel delay coverage. Lost or delayed luggage. Here's something that most people are not aware of. In general, airlines go by at least US airlines, go by the Department of Transportation rules when it comes to lost or delayed luggage. Your luggage is considered delayed generally for 3 weeks. So if your trip, it's a weekend trip, a 1-week trip, and the airline has lost your luggage, they're not going to own that until at least 21 days after it disappeared. Your trip could be over by then. So you want to make sure that your policy covers lost or delayed, and you want to pay attention to how they define delay versus loss. Travel insurance policies cover emergency medical coverage. So something happens, you are in an accident and you need to use the medical facilities in the country you are visiting outside of your home country. Typically, you want a policy that's going to cover that. If you've got health insurance in your home country, double check, do they offer coverage internationally? Most US policies do not, but if your policy is based in another country, it might. In that same vein of emergency treatment, you want a policy that is going to cover medical evacuation. I really want to stress this part because often we're not aware of how expensive medical evac can be. And unless you've got an extra 30, 40 grand sitting around, you want this to be something that the insurance company picks up the tab for, organizes, what have you. You probably also want a policy that includes repatriation of remains in case something happens and you are involved in a fatal incident while traveling. There are some travel insurance policies that offer cancel for any reason coverage. I think a lot of people make the assumption that all travel insurance policies carry this type of coverage, and that is not true. Cancel for any reason is exactly that. Most other coverages, cancellation, delay, is for very specific covered reasons. Cancel for any reason policies are that. You can cancel for any reason, but there is a trade-off. You have to cancel within a certain time frame. Usually it's like 48 hours before the trip, and you're not going to get 100% of your money back. Typically, you get reimbursed for 70% of the cost of the trip. If you haven't picked up on this already, it's really important that you make sure you read all of the fine print when considering an insurance policy. There are certain places that you could visit that would nullify whatever coverage you have under your policy. If there has been a natural disaster in that area and you choose to travel there anyway, because of the issues that may exist on the ground, the insurance company may say, no, we're not covering things that happen to you there. If it's a place where there have been State Department warnings, if the borders have been closed, any kind of things like that, oftentimes the insurance company will not cover you there. Something else to keep in mind when you are reading the fine print is to make sure that you understand the limits of the reimbursement features of your policy. For example, you pay $2,000 for a trip. If you cancel it, your deposit for that trip is non-refundable. Your insurance company is only likely going to cover you for the cost of the non-refundable portion of the trip, not the $2,000 price you paid for the trip. They will expect you to take that up with whoever it is that you booked with. So that's something to keep in mind as well. There are certain activities that are not covered by most mainstream general travel insurance policies. So if you are going to be taking part in something super adventurous, dangerous, bungee jumping, rock climbing, that kind of thing, double check to see if your policy covers that. You may be able to buy an additional policy, like an add-on for that kind of like extreme activity. Same thing when it comes to expensive equipment. Same thing when it comes to expensive equipment. If you've got, computers, cameras, that sort of thing, you want to see how much, if anything, is reimbursable in the main policy. You may have to purchase an additional policy to cover those items. And last but not least, this is one that often catches people by surprise. If you are in a situation where you have to seek emergency medical care, you need to know, does your policy direct bill the hospital or the service provider? Or is the expectation that you will cover the cost initially and then submit a claim to be reimbursed? There are trade-offs to both of these. If you want a direct bill policy, that is probably going to cost you more on the front end. If you choose to go the more affordable route, and it's a policy that will require you to be reimbursed, you want to make sure that you have access to the amount of cash you might need. Many hospitals don't take credit cards. It all depends on where you're traveling. So those are some things to keep in mind. When we're talking about emergency medical treatment, some policies will not cover you if you seek emergency medical treatment for a pre-existing condition. This is one of those things you want to double check when you read the fine print. Does that mean you are out of luck if you have a pre-existing condition? It doesn't. Often you can get a policy addendum, an add-on policy, a supplemental policy that covers pre-existing conditions, or if you have more complex medical needs. For instance, you are living with a chronic disease, you might want to go beyond the typical travel insurance and actually secure a travel health insurance policy or an international health insurance policy with someone like Safety Wing, which I have an affiliate link for. I'll link it up here and in the description, or one of the many other companies that provide travel health insurance. They would probably give you the most options for more extensive coverage. What about annual policies? These can be great if you are somebody who takes multiple trips a year. From a financial standpoint, it's probably going to be cheaper for you to pay for an annual policy instead of individual policies for every single trip you take. If you're somebody who likes to book at the last minute, an annual policy might be really good, because typically when booking a traditional travel insurance policy, there is a window of time between when you book and when coverage can begin. So last minute travelers, an annual policy might really do well for you. If you've got to cover an entire family as opposed to an individual person, an annual policy might be a good idea. Really, if you travel at least 3 times a year, you should look into one. But keep in mind, the annual policy does not just cover you for the entire year. It covers individual trips within that year. So you can't just say, I'm going to bop around indefinitely. Annual policies aren't really meant for that. For that, you probably want like a backpacker policy, a long-term travel policy. But if you're going to take 4 or 5 trips per year that are usually less than a month long, an annual policy might be the way to go. Finding travel insurance can be a bit of a pain, especially if you are going to be, contacting and researching lots of different companies individually. This is why I really like sites like travelinsurance.com. I'll link it here and in the description below. Also have an affiliate link for them. Because they are an aggregator site. So in one place, you can put in your information, whatever extra policies you need, and then they give you back results of, okay, this company offers this coverage, this company offers this. So in one, it's kind of like a one-stop shop. In one place, you can compare multiple policies. If you are like me, and you live abroad, getting travel insurance can be tricky. In my own personal experience, I have found that if you do not put the United States as your country of residence, a lot of sites, they actually have no policies to offer you, which really made me start to think, is this something that's only available for Americans? No, it's just most of the US companies don't like covering those of us who don't live there. So you've got a couple of options. As an American, you could put the US. That means if something happens and you have to be medically evacuated or your remains have to be repatriated, they're going to go to the US. That is not something I want. So I, as a resident of Mexico, struggled to find a policy, a company that would give me a policy, not being a resident of the US, of the UK. And the one company I found that does that is World Nomads. Don't have an affiliate link for them, but I will link them here and I will link them below as well. World Nomads, I believe, will issue a policy for residents of almost every country in the world. They have a very solid reputation, and the policy was not prohibitively expensive. Of course, travel insurance is like all travel products. The older you are, the more you're going to pay. But so far, I've never had to file a claim with World Nomads, but so far, I'm happy with them. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and check out the description of this video for links to the insurance companies that I mentioned.